It's to the premium seating tent, padded seats, meals, and more for just $125. Premium tickets are going fast, so buy yours today. To purchase premium tickets and for more information, visit LincolnAirShow.com. We'll see you at the Guardians of Freedom Air Show in late August.
Summer is near. Now's the time to clean or replace your furnace filter to get the most out of your AC. Find energy-saving tips at les.com/save-energy.
Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket.
Okay, playing 93.7 The Ticket.
Alexa, turn down the lights.
Dimming the lights.
Alexa, order a pizza. The big one. All the toppings.
Are you sure that's a good idea?
Alexa.
That's a lot of pizza for just one man.
Alexa, just do it. Stop judging me, just do it.
As you wish.
Thanks, Alexa. You're my best friend. Live from the heart of Lincoln, America, welcome to Ticket Weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back into Ticket Weeknights. This is the Hoops IQ Check. I'm Harrison Arens, going solo all the way up until 9 o'clock. Appreciate you guys sitting in here with me. And again, if you want to join the show, Sartor Heyman text line 402-464-5685, as well as we are streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Allo channel 951 for all our Allo subscribers out there, which you should be. Around the Lincoln area, there's no doubt in my mind, Allo is 100% the way to go. Nonetheless, though, we'll keep it moving here, and we're going to be talking some NBA. James Harden, we're going back to James Harden. The guy just can't stay out of the headlines. It seems like we might get that James Harden that might kind of force his way out again. He's going with the cryptic tweets, the cryptic social media messaging. He removed the 76ers from his bio on Instagram. He put out some tweets saying, "I've been comfortable for a long time. It's time for me to get uncomfortable," end quote. So again, it just looks like James Harden's going to leave. Or if he doesn't leave, he's going to try everything he can to kind of Rockets-esque his way out the door, like kind of what we saw when the whole CP3, James Harden on the Rockets thing all fell apart, and they're kind of stuck with Harden after CP3 goes to OKC, the Thunder, and you end up with a very sad James Harden who does not want to play. Just giving up, showing up, out of shape, obviously has no intentions of really trying to win with that team. And to be fair, that team wasn't going to win anything. If you want to defend him a little bit, that wasn't going to win a championship. My biggest problem with him is just, why wouldn't you want to get better? Just continue to develop your game, because if you're being honest, he hasn't won anything yet. If you haven't won anything yet, I don't know if it's your best interest to just kind of continually sit out or not work on your craft. It's kind of been the whole James Harden saga. It's hard to believe that at one point in time, he looked like he was going to be the best player in the NBA just off a dominant season with the Rockets. You know, he had those ankle breakers. I believe it was Austin Rivers on an ankle breaker, stared him down, and then still shot it. And it looked like we're really about to see this guy take off. And he did. But he still hasn't won anything, and it's the way he leaves and kind of floats between these teams where I don't know how well it works out for those guys to actually win an NBA title. And maybe that's kind of where we want to go down on this hour. I might actually kind of flip the script a little bit as opposed to just kind of following the NBA trade rumors around, and because as far as we know, that always kind of leads you astray. You get bits and pieces, but if you're being real, Shams, I'm getting a little upset with Shams. I'm pretty sure Shams is with the gambling stuff. I just don't like watching tweets from Shams, especially regarding the NBA draft, because at one point in time, Shams, who, let me put this in your head, Shams, who works for FanDuel, a sports betting website, Shams tweets out that Scoot Henderson is building some serious momentum for the Charlotte Hornets. Now, it was pretty much Brandon Miller to the Charlotte Hornets. That's what everyone's saying. That's going to be number two pick is going to be Brandon Miller. Scoot Henderson will be on the board at 3. for the Portland Trailblazers. Well, Shams tweeted out that there was some serious interest right before the draft, that there's some serious interest going on with Charlotte, and it's getting close between Scoot Henderson and Brandon Miller. Even though all before that it was Brandon Miller. This is just a few hours before the draft. He tweets that, and those odds go from, I believe they were plus 100 to negative 700. So all that money, he just flips it on a dime. That's the only thing I'll say on that. I'm not saying these guys are tweeting things constantly to throw you off your game, but definitely know who Shams, who Woj, who all those connections are, especially when it comes to those gambling businesses like FanDuel. There's tons of them out there. I mean, you can name so many of them out there today, but FanDuel tends to be the bigger one out there. Just keep an eye on that. If you're actually putting a bet down based off of a tweet from Shams, make sure you understand that Shams, he does work for FanDuel. It is not a crazy stretch to believe that, there could be some tweets there to influence, because the one before the NBA draft, it was very strange, and I'm calling total BS on it. I don't think there was any, if it got that close, it wouldn't have happened right before the NBA draft unless they learned something magical. But they saw all the workouts. That to me always kind of felt like a setup. But nonetheless, we'll move on from there. I kind of want to talk about this NBA, the way the league's going. Is it in your best interest to keep team hopping or trust the organization? And the reason I say this is because with the amount of players I see hopping around over and over and over again, I'm beginning to wonder if they just would have stayed put, if it could have been better for them. Because if you look at Kevin Durant's career, the way he went to the Warriors, you can argue that is the most ring chasing I've ever seen. I don't care what you say. Kevin Durant joining the Warriors was a total ring chase. But then after to leave the Warriors, is it because he's not the face of the franchise? Is it because he doesn't want to be behind Steph Curry? Is that really all it was? Or it's too easy to be on the Warriors? And then you see guys like James Harden. It doesn't work out with the Rockets. I'm going to try Brooklyn. Doesn't work out with those guys. I'm going to try 76ers. They just keep hopping around. And if you would just stay on a team and really work with those guys, I think you could have a higher chance of winning more championships. LeBron James will always be a curiosity to me. If he just stays put, instead of hopping around from team to team, would he have more rings? Because it seems like wherever he goes, he's totally capable of building a roster around him. If you had more consistent organization around you, and if you're LeBron James, if you started with the Cavs and ended with the Cavs and you were still there today, can you imagine the amount of leverage in organizing your team and being able to have, some of that control of your own destiny? The more you hop around, the more I feel like you're heading into a new organization. You don't know who your coaches are going to be. You don't know how much they're going to listen to your influence because you're hopping around. It just doesn't ever feel like a good recipe to be hopping around this much. And I do believe it's tarnishing the game from the fans' experience a little bit. Because I don't run into, when I talk to younger kids today, I don't run into hardly any, I'm a fan of X team. I'm a fan of team Y, team Z, whatever it may be. It's always, I'm a fan of insert player name. You never see too many kids today that really full on root for a team. It's kind of player based, right? You follow your favorite players around. They might get traded 3 times within 3 years, but you're just going to follow that guy forever. And it's just not a good product to me when that's kind of the way the league goes now. It's losing a little bit of what the NFL has. You take the NFL fandom of a team compared to an NBA fandom of a team. I feel like the NFL trumps it every time. There's much more loyalty to a fan or to an organization in the NFL. And when you go to the NBA, it's all just dedicated to a player. And I'm partly guilty of this. I loved watching Kobe Bryant. And, once his career was over with the Lakers, I really didn't watch hardly any Lakers basketball. But I was always a Bulls fan, right? So I kept watching the Bulls, even though Kobe might have been my favorite player. I still owed my fandom to the Bulls. And when you're just following player to player, I feel like that's also going to hurt your viewership, right? Because if my favorite player, LeBron James, isn't playing that night, I'm not even going to watch the game if I'm a LeBron fan, not a Laker fan. And I think that's where you're seeing some of these numbers really start to skew, because we're also in the load management era. So now if you're a fan of the players more than a fan of the organization, and welcome to the load management era, where if you take a quick exercise to do on these players complaining about 82 games, and why I will always find it ridiculous that these guys complain about playing 82 games, is because the best players never play 82 games. They just don't. They don't anymore. Very few are you going to get a all-star capable player playing all 82 games of the season. So I'd never want to hear that anymore from these NBA players complaining about 82 games, because if you are not one of those superstar players, you want more games. Those are opportunities for you to get your contract. The superstars complaining about the 82 games always drives me nuts, because they're not playing 82 games. If you take the top 30 scorers in the NBA from last season, just take the top 30 scores, because that's usually pretty indicative of the best players across the league. It's not absolute, but if you're scoring that many points and you're in the top 30, it's a pretty good indication that you're one of the better players in the league. You're probably a superstar, unless you're in that bottom 30, but nonetheless, you're still a starter getting plenty of impact across the league. Those players on average miss 14 games. So the top 30 scorers in the NBA from last season missed on average 14 games. That's a lot of games to miss in an 82-game season. So forget about 82. On average, you guys are playing in the low 70s to high 60s. So the whole argument to shorten the league down, the load management, I think it's all kind of accumulating into a worse product. The officiating is another thing. We officiate the game today that completely hurts players defensively. You can be only so aggressive to a point. And with the way these ticky-tack fouls go, especially in the finals, when you see it with guys like Jokic just picking up really dumb fouls in a very short amount of time that are just kind of 50-50 calls that maybe you let go. To me, it's all accumulating into a worse product. And I kind of want to hear where you guys are at. Starter Hammond text line 402-464-5685. So talking about the NBA, were you a fan of the NBA before? And at what point did you stop, and what happened? What was the cause for losing interest in the NBA? Is it the physicality? Is it your favorite players leaving? Is it the free agent era, where it just feels like if you're a superstar, you can forge your own path and you don't really have any loyalty towards the team? Which, again, you can argue, should they have loyalty to the team? I think as a business partner, you should be held somewhat accountable. Now, obviously, if they're not being a good business partner with you, then it's free for you to leave. But, I'm not going to sit here and say James Harden and Kyrie Irving and guys like Kevin Durant have been great business partners. They've forced their way out a number of times and put teams in really weird positions to kind of deal with the debris they left behind. They go all in, hoping to get a ring, and if it doesn't happen within 2 years, it feels like those players are gone already. And you just cashed all your picks, some of your key growing, developing young players for a superstar in the hopes to win a ring, just for that superstar in 2 years to decide this isn't happening as fast as I wanted. Yeah, I know I'm still on this max contract for 2 more years, but I'm going to make a real fuss and try to get my way out of here because I just want to win now. I'm not patient enough to watch the process. I don't have faith in you guys, the organization, to do this for me. And my biggest problem with that is, yeah, you should take the contract. But when you take that contract, I think a little bit of that, you should be feeling somewhat accountable as a business partner to say, hey, I signed 4 years with you guys. I know what the roster looked like. I know what the coaches looked like. I know what all the organizational members on the inside, I know who they were. I talked to them. I'm going to sign this 4-year deal, but in 2 years, I'm going to flip on a switch and just kind of completely forget everything I thought 2 years ago when I signed that piece of paper. It's a lack of, good faith in an organization when you're doing that. And again, unless the organization is not being fair to you, but I'm just going to be honest, like I said before, I feel like these players, at least as of late, over time, you could probably argue that the organizations have been way more oppressive than the players have ever been. But as of late, it's definitely a player-friendly league. And as a result, we're seeing this player favoritism as opposed to a certain team. And you're seeing more offense, less defense. It all just accumulates to worse ratings. And the NBA's got some big problems hanging around. You can't do the load management anymore. They're going to roll out this midseason tournament hoping to get some more fans in from the NFL season, but they really have to work on this regular season. You know, it's not fair for me either to watch NBA fans that save everything they can because they just want one game with decent enough seats, even if it's just below the nosebleeds. It's all they can afford because I got to pay for the trip to California, not cheap. Staples Center tickets, not cheap, but it's the only way I can watch my favorite NBA team play a game. I just want to watch LeBron James finally play a game before he retires. And if he doesn't suit up that night on a last minute notice, when you already have the plane tickets, you already bought the hotel room, you already have everything planned out, ready to go, and then you show up to Staples Center. I keep calling it Staples. It's not Staples. It's Crypto Arena now, I believe. You show up to Crypto Arena and he's not playing. You know, that kind of stuff to me is what's really hurting this NBA fan base right now. And I think Adam Silver is the first time in a while he's deserved a little bit of heat because this new CBA agreement that I've talked about ad nauseum is going to be very disadvantaged for the middle class players, right? That new CBA agreement, that $17.5 million over the luxury tax, is going to put you into a second apron where you're really limited on what you can do to develop your team. So it puts almost like it's the closest thing that we've ever had to a hard cap in the NBA. You're not going to be completely tied down if you go over, but you're pretty damn near close to being tied down. You know, there's hardly any transactions you can make in the middle of the season if you're over that. And it's just not going to go great amongst the league. I think we're going to see more two superstar teams. I think we're going to see those middle-class players that not quite a superstar, can't be your one, can't be your number two guy, but you can maybe be 3 or 4. Those guys are going to get paid a lot less. You're going to be having 2 superstars on a team at max. And I just don't know if that's going to make for a better product, if that's going to hurt the players more. It just puts a lot of limits on teams that I don't think need to be in play. Because if you're the Golden State Warriors and you want to pay a bunch of money into the league, kind of like if you want to think about it, compared to the NFL, the Rams, the way they won that Super Bowl, if you want to pay for a Super Bowl, if you're willing to commit that much money on your roster, I don't know if it's fair to necessarily penalize those teams that are bringing the most money into the league. Because the Golden State Warriors, yeah, they're going to be hitting that luxury tax, but they also bring in a ton of revenue for the NBA. And there's going to be a lot of teams in that window where, you know, all that revenue they're willing to bring into the NBA, they're just not. That's going to be a real hard cap there that everyone's going to kind of shy away from. And it's just going to make for an interesting league. And I think it's the first time in a while that Adam Silver should probably get a little bit of heat, because I don't see it working out too well in the future. With that being said, though, we'll go ahead and throw it to our first break. We'll continue this conversation going on forward. And again, if you want to join the show, Starter Heyman text line, Starter Heyman text line, 402-464-5685, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. I'm Harrison Arens. This is the Hoops IQ Check. I will catch you guys on the other side.
This is your captain. We are going to be experiencing some slight turbulence. Please fasten your... Oh, hold on. Just got a video of my cat.
Imagine the pilot of an airplane was as confident as you are texting and driving. Seems kind of crazy when you put it like that.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Ashiro's work is never done. You care for the house, the kids, and our future. We're so grateful for all you do. Now it's time to care for yourself and save a little more for retirement. A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to boost your retirement savings now. Visit aceyourretirement.org/Shiro today.
A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Mario fue pintor más de 30 años. Cuando me dijo que se le estaban olvidando las cosas, fue difícil. Un día me dijeron que pintara el marco del lado por dentro y pinté el lado de afuera.
Yo le diría a la gente que le diga a su familia lo que está pasando con él.
Si algo se nota diferente, podría ser Alzheimer. Es momento de hablarlo. Visita alz.org/nuestras historias para saber más. Un mensaje de The Alzheimer's Association y The Ad Council.
As an 18-year-old, I let my mistakes kind of take over my life. I was 0.5 credits away from completing high school, and I didn't do it.
10 years later, at age 28, Jackie finished her high school diploma.
When I found out that I was pregnant, I know that I had to do something for myself if I wanted to make her a better person and provide a better life for her. My family never stopped pushing for me to be better because they knew what I could become and who I could become as a person. My support team is amazing. The educational director, my sister, and even my 7-year-old daughter has just been more than the support that I could ask for. I've been given an opportunity, and I'm just thankful for it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Pastor Tom. Did you know there's a place kids can seek out help when they're away from home and something goes wrong? They find themselves in a difficult spot or even a dangerous situation. Maybe another child is bullying them or a stranger is following them. Perhaps on a date and things just go bad. In Lincoln, here's where they can find help. It's called Safe Place. Safe Place is a national program for children taking place in thousands of cities across the United States. The People City Mission is sponsoring this program in our community and has set up a number of businesses, fire stations, schools, and nonprofits around the city to become safe locations where kids can seek out help. They just need to look for the big yellow sign that says Safe Place on it. Then go inside and ask for help. We will be quickly connected to them and ensure they make it back home or to whatever resources are needed. If you'd like to find out more about Safe Place and ways in which you can get involved, just go to pcmlincoln.org. Remember, when we all do a little, we change a lot.
This is how we do every day. We be grinding, and if you want to come and text us,
If you love them enough to turn off your music and pretend like their music is your music,
This is Mommy's jam.
then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Let's play it again.
Check today at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
If you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis, call 988 for free, confidential, and compassionate support. On July 16th, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is transitioning to 988. There is hope. For 24/7 support, call, text, or chat 988.
Sponsored by Nebraska DHHS, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association this station.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those round trips, which are perfect on your way there and perfect on your way back? Or those meetings with friends, surprise parties, camps, birthdays. The same way you plan for the important moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Okay, kids, Dad's gonna teach you how to dance. First, spread your feet apart. Then, pump your knee, nod your head, shake your hips, and bite your lip ever so slightly. Now, with one hand in the air, point at people with the other hand. I call that the rock star.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids.
Now, make a face like it just smells something bad.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
The wait is almost over. The Guardians of Freedom Air Show is the hottest event in the area, coming to Lincoln's Air Park on Saturday, August 26th and Sunday, August 27th. Elevate your air show experience with tickets to the premium seating tent, padded seats, meals, and more for just $125. Premium tickets are going fast, so buy yours today. To purchase premium tickets and for more information, visit LincolnAirShow.com. We'll see you at the Guardians of Freedom Air Show in late August.
Back to the Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back into the Hoops IQ Check. I am Harrison Arens, going solo all the way up until 9 o'clock. And again, if you guys want to join the show, feel free to do so through the starter Heyman text line 402-464-5685, as well as I'm streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Allo Channel 951 for our Allo subscribers out there. And again, you should be. It's a great service. Best one around Lincoln, at least in my personal opinion, in the Ticket's personal opinion, to put it that way. But nonetheless, we'll kind of keep these things moving here. Moving on here, we'll talk a little bit about these younger guys, in particular, who's all getting invited to be part of the FIBA World Cup. I do believe Cunningham made a full recovery and is expected to play. So right now, this is from Shams. Oklahoma City's Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams, Detroit's Cade Cunningham, Houston's Jalen Green, Sacramento's Keegan Murray are among the rising American stars who will join the Team USA for the FIBA Cup training next month. So that'll be a good one. A lot of young guys in there. And the reason why this is interesting to me is because you read that roster, that's a pretty good group of young guys, right? Obviously, there's some guys that injuries, like with Chet, you really do wonder what that looks like at the next level. Same thing with Cunningham. He had that season-ending injury last year, but from Woj, looks like he's made a full recovery. So we'll be able to see these guys finally just be able to play healthy. It feels like for a lot of these rookies, as of late, we're not really seeing them until their second year. There's always something that happens where either they coddle them a little too much. Maybe that's not the right word because it is your future that you're trying to protect. But you think about the whole Zion situation. That's a disaster. And it's still kind of a disaster playing out right now. I mean, they just never really have a healthy Zion. You go to Ben Simmons, even though he probably could have came back his rookie year, I think he was purposely sitting out. So therefore, he could get Rookie of the Year next season, and not because he wanted the trophy that bad, but for all those listening, basically Ben Simmons, he had a huge Nike bonus if he can win Rookie of the Year. Well, he had the opportunity to come back in the season. And as far as like the training staff and everyone around him, they're all saying like, yeah, he should be good to go, but for whatever reason, Ben Simmons kept implying like, no, I still have problems. I'm not ready to play. End of the season comes. Okay, perfect. Now I don't have to come in because if he would have came in, he would have been able to play enough to lose that Rookie of the Year or to still be eligible for Rookie of the Year. But with the minimum amount of games, there's no chance he would have won. So I think that's why he opted out. So go ahead and get that deal, that Rookie of the Year deal from Nike and cash in on it. That one's a little bit of an asterisk because I think he had a little bit of intention of sitting it out so he could make that extra money on that Rookie of the Year Nike deal bonus. But moving on here, you got guys like Chet, Zion. We'll see what happens with Victor. But a lot of these first round picks, they don't necessarily play right away, or first round picks, and they get hurt. And then you're just kind of left wondering. And then the year goes by, you almost forget about him. Like Chet Holmgren, I don't know how many people remembered him from last year. He at one point in time was just booming on social media for the same reasons Victor Wembanyama was. He is a freakishly tall guard. I think he's 7'5", Victor's 7'6", but I think he's just 1 inch short at 7'5". But, I mean, you look at Chet Holmgren's style and Victor, they're both a little bit of the same thing, right? They can both handle the ball at ridiculous size. Might argue Victor's a little better at that at this point in time, but in terms of rim protection, Chet looks like he's a little better in terms of just timing his blocks, because when you're that tall, the biggest thing is stay out of foul trouble. And just time it. You're tall enough not to get yourself caught up in the air all the time. So that's kind of my point, right? We all kind of forgot about Chet Holmgren because of Victor Wembanyama, who's essentially, a carbon copy physically of Chet Holmgren. And now we're going to be able to see Chet Holmgren along with Cunningham, who's a guy's really excited to see with Green. The thing with Green on the Rockets is he's never just had a good roster around him. And to be fair, he's never taken that next step himself like you were expecting to. But I do wonder if that's just, if you don't have any teammates around him that you can set you up, that no veterans to really teach you the style of the NBA, the small facets that can win you games, understanding how to handle the refs. Because let's not kid ourselves, understanding how to handle the refs is a very big part of the NBA. It just is. You ever watch an NBA game? You get to the second half. I don't want to say it's like rigged, but there's definitely some calls in there where it's like they're up by 20, you get close to the half. It's like, oh my gosh, can you believe it? A few ticky-tack calls here, and it's almost 5-point game now. And you get to the second half, third quarter feels like it's for the players. And the fourth quarter, all of a sudden, you get those fouls again, and it's like a 5-point finish. You got to learn how to deal with that because it happens. I think it just does, right? You have to be aware that the game is going to be out of your control sometimes. And that might be crazy to say as an NBA fan, but I think I've watched enough NBA to kind of, I watch some of these games, and even if the refs are trying their best to make the right call, whenever you ever watched pro sports and seen the right call made every play, understanding how to take control of the uncontrollables. And by that, I just mean bear through it. Don't let it frustrate you. You think about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and CP3, the wonders that veteran presence had on SGA. It was massive. You saw his numbers jump dramatically that first year with CP3. And then once he left, they stayed the same. It's like he took some lessons from CP3. You saw a little bit of that craftiness, and he really ran off with it. With Jalen Green, he's just been down there. It feels like he's playing with no one. How are you going to get better when you got no one around you? Like, he's a young guy in the league, and they got to worry about him as the number one threat. He's not that good yet, but he's already becoming like the number one threat on the team. So maybe it makes you better, but for me, it just feels like one of those things where if he had some actual veterans around him, I'd imagine you'd see an uptick in performance. And I'm really hoping this is what that FIBA World Cup does for guys like Jalen Green, Cunningham, Chet Holmgren. They just really haven't had that start they wanted. Cunningham is a guy that I'm still not sure yet. I think he was a good player. He showed some flashes for sure. Obviously, season ending early for him, but we still don't know who Cade Cunningham really is, what his game can all bring. He was a little bumpy, inconsistent-wise in terms of his shooting. The defense was impressive from a young guy. I'm excited to see what that looks like in the FIBA World Cup as they begin to get training here by the end of the month. But again, with these guys, these young guys, it's like you don't really get to see them. So this will be a good opportunity to kind of actually gauge where these guys are at and once again test ourselves over international waters. Because we've seen the league catch up with the U.S. in terms of talent. Who are the best players in the NBA right now? LeBron James. You go Damian Lillard. He's still in there. But you keep going down the list, and all of a sudden you got a lot of foreign players. You're going Luka. You're going Giannis. You're going Jokic. You're going I'm leaving out some. Jovic has turned into nice. Sabonis. That's who I'm missing. Another really great player. And a lot of these players are foreign. It just feels like the rest of the world is catching up a little bit. So to see these guys, an opportunity to actually get tested by some pro-style teams, because there's one thing that I always notice when we play any sort of World Cup style game, U.S. versus enter X country. Those teams seem to always play a lot better chemistry-wise. Big part of that is smaller countries, so they're used to seeing each other a lot. They're selected to these all-star teams just based out of a smaller pool. They're going to see each other a lot more. But the U.S. got a lot more talent rolling around, so you're willing to throw out new lineups up all the time. But if your talent, which the U.S. has a way bigger talent pool, there's no reason that we can't beat some of these teams, despite them having more veteran presence. If you just look at the overall talent pool, the U.S. should be winning these. Now, the problem is as of late, it's getting closer and closer and closer. And as of late, the best players in the NBA are some of these international guys. So are we just kind of starting to teach basketball fundamentals wrong here in the U.S.? That's another big topic, right? The AAU travel ball has gotten almost out of control, in my opinion. There should be some circuit AAU teams that are the best of the best, right? They compete. with those players because they need that level of competition. Because if they just go play for their standard team, they're going to be scoring 40 points every game and just destroying whoever's across from them and not necessarily getting better. Iron sharpens iron type of deal. But some of these AAU teams are, they have like no business being a travel team. I look at some of these rosters and I'm like, you guys just belong in the gym together on your high school roster. Like no one out here is sticking out to me to where you need to be paying thousands of dollars to go do on all these travel ball trips because if you're just being honest, like you're not showing it. It's awesome if you have the money and you're doing it for purely out of love of the sport and it's recreation for you and you have the money to do so, then all right, that's fair enough. Like you don't actually see yourself becoming an NBA player, but you're going to enjoy the time you have to do this travel ball stuff because you just really like basketball. Maybe you won't go NBA, but maybe you go D3, D2, and if you're lucky enough, go D1. Okay, that I can maybe understand, but some of these things, they just feel delusional. You get all these kids, you get all these parents to give these guys thousands of dollars. They fly around. Who knows how much is it actually for the travel and everything? There's plenty of honest travel teams out there that you can go and find. But we're also in an era where there's a lot of shady ones. And when I say shady, I don't think they're intentionally trying to be shady, but it kind of boils down to the bottom line of, what's all the point of spending all this money in doing this travel ball stuff when the players on that roster maybe aren't as good and should be using that time to develop their own unique style, be on that high school roster, make sure you can beat your own inner city squad before you realize, hey, I need to get out into the bigger pond because I'm too good for these guys already. Some of those guys need to go back to their pond and prove themselves there before you even think about doing travel ball. Because if you do travel ball, yeah, it might be fun to go do all these hotel trips, but it's not fun losing by 20, 30, 40 over and over again. And maybe you meet another team in there that kind of like you doesn't really belong and you're just getting 1 win, 2 wins mixed in there. But for the most part, it was an abysmal tournament and you got a summer long of losing tournaments. But hey, you're having fun and you're spending money and you're going to hotel trips and you're hanging out with your friends. Like to me, that's not the point of travel ball. It's to get better. It's for the guys that are really starting to peak within their own rosters that kind of need that extra challenge because you lose a little bit of that creativity too, I think, with this travel ball stuff. You think of a guy like Nikola Jokic, who's playing in Sambar, Serbia, who has no real, I don't want to say no NBA prominence or basketball prominence, but it's not a super popular thing, right? Yeah, there's basketball fans. Yeah, he has some guys that he can go and play with, but for the most part, Jokic was just playing whenever he got the chance. And you can see that in his game. Does Jokic look like a guy that did AAU travel ball or any sort of travel ball that they might have had in Europe, Russia? No. His style is so creative and unique. It makes me think, do we lose some of that with the way we train these kids, immediately fix everything they're doing and immediately place them into a mold? We talked about this on Lloyd's and Lincoln. One of the biggest tragedies you can do to a tall kid on a youth team is put him at the 5, but then don't let him do anything other than the 5. If you're at a youth level and your 5 gets the rebound, you let him bring the ball up the court. You teach him like, hey, I know you're the tallest guy on the team right now, but this is youth sports. So I don't know what you're going to be yet. So take the ball, get the rebound, and if you can turn around, dribble it up the court on a fast break, go for it. And if you're a guard, post up. See if that's in your game. See if, even if, you're not super tall, the guy that's guarding you is going to be that tall either if you're at that 1-2 position. So see what you have for post skills. See if you can shock a defender from time to time and do all those little things. I feel like the problem with the AAU ball is, like I'm saying, you take this kid who's not necessarily ready to take that next leap, but you put him in there anyways. He gets convinced by all his friends are doing it. So he thinks, okay, I need to go and do this now. Well, he's not really ready for that level. And about the only thing he really can do at that level is rebound. Because if he tries to turn around and bring the ball up the court, he's just not good enough yet. And he's just going to get pickpocketed over and over again. That's going to kill his confidence. And as a team, you're not going to want him doing that anymore. That's still youth, but it's still, you're paying a lot of money and you're getting to that next tier of players that they're a little more serious. They're already kind of grooming and understanding what they're good at. So again, with those young players, I think you let them play 1 through 5. Yeah, you sign them, you're the starting center, and that's where you're going to be. But if you get that fast break, like I said, push the ball up the court, see what you can do, let your game develop. Because watching Jokic, that's a center that pushes the ball up the court every time he gets the rebound. And look at what that team does on fast breaks. It works out miraculously because now once Jokic has the fast break, well, that center is getting pulled up to have to stop Jokic on a downhill run. He can't just sit in the lane waiting for Jokic to meet him at the rim. He's got to go up to the 3-point line and stop him before he gets too much momentum barreling down into you. And all of a sudden, all your guards are set up. They can spot up at the 3 or cut back door because there's not a giant waiting there for him. So again, stuff like that, I do wonder if with this youth league stuff, we are kind of ruining players' ability to kind of be creative a little bit. Nonetheless, we'll throw it to break here. This is the Hoops IQ Check. I'm Harrison Arens. We'll throw it to break here on the Hoops IQ Check. I'll catch you guys on the other side. We'll have one more segment, about 7 minutes left. So if you guys want to join in, Sartor Heyman text line 402-464-5685. I'll throw it to break and catch you guys on the other side.
Mario fue pintor más de 30 años. Cuando me dijo que se le estaban olvidando las cosas, fue difícil. Un día me dijeron que pintara el marco del lado por dentro y pinté el lado de afuera.
Yo le diría a la gente que le diga a su familia lo que está pasando con él.
Si algo se nota diferente, podría ser Alzheimer. Es momento de hablarlo. Visita alz.org/nuestras historias para saber más. Un mensaje de The Alzheimer's Association y The Ad Council.
Veterans, do you know what local, state, and federal benefits and services you're eligible to receive? Do you want help navigating the application or appeals process? Speak to your county veteran service officer or the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs State Service Office to see what's available to you and your family. You've served our country, now let us serve you. Visit veterans.nebraska.gov today. Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action. Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Talk to doctor now and share it.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it twice a day.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it in the morning and before dinner.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it, and share it with my doctor. Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor.
Now that I know my blood pressure numbers, I talked with my doctor. We're getting those numbers down.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Learn more at manageyourbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
I think it's just vapor. Vaping is safer than smoking, isn't it?
There's really not even that much nicotine in them, right?
One vape pod has as much nicotine as 1 pack of cigarettes.
My kid
knows it's dangerous. 5.4 million American kids vape, and most think it's harmless. Get your head out of the cloud. Talk to your kid about vaping. Visit talkaboutvaping.org. That's talkaboutvaping.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
If you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis, call 988 for free, confidential, and compassionate support. On July 16th, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is transitioning to 988. There is hope. For 24/7 support, call, text, or chat 988.
Sponsored by Nebraska DHHS, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Sandhills Global is hiring. Check out sandhills.jobs for more information. Sandhills is looking to fill hundreds of new openings in sales, traveling support, software development, web design, and more. Sandhills has a professional culture and is fast-paced with a focus on growth, innovation, and leading-edge technologies. Career and internship opportunities are available at our global headquarters in Lincoln, Nebraska. Apply today at sandhills.jobs.
The captain, Vershawn Jackson.
Rich in the double-doubles here. If you had to pass the baton down to the new guy and say, that's the new pipeline, what does that look like?
Conditioning for me, ultimately, is a game changer. I don't care how much you can bench, how much you can squat. If you can start a game and finish a game in the same condition in the extreme elements, you're going to have the ability to wear down your opponent. And that's what we took a lot of pride in. By the third and fourth quarter, they were dog tired. They knew it was coming at them again, the same it was in the first quarter.
Back to the Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back into the final segment of Hoops IQ Check, but we're going to switch it up. We're going to call it Football IQ Check because it's going to get me through these slow parts of the NBA season, which, to be fair, they're slow. If you guys want to listen to me talk about James Harden 24/7, because that's truly what it'd be. The NBA slowed down a lot. Yeah, you can get into some extra notes between where players are going. I would talk about Damian Lillard, but not much has changed. I still don't know if the Portland Trailblazers are going to hold on to him before the season or trade him as the season gets going. The offers aren't good enough yet. There are a few more offers I'll quick mention. Zach LaVine. It looks like the Knicks were interested in offering Zach LaVine, but the number from sources is gigantic. Way too much that they're willing to pay for Zach LaVine. So they looked at Karl Anthony Towns, same thing. Cat has an insane number over his head. So unfortunately for Karl Anthony Towns, I don't think he really wants to stay with Timberwolves too much longer. That's just me kind of reading the tea leaves, but his number's so high from the organization that he's going to be back with Minnesota to start the season. And I think Zach LaVine too. I don't think the Bulls are going to give him up for cheap because if you're being honest, that's kind of what they have. Like they're going to sell him high because they're at a point where they need to. They sell him for, anything short than what he's worth, like they're going to be hurting for a long time because they traded a lot to to add DeRozan. I mean, a lot. And then they also had the Vucevic trade, which I'm not super high on. Vucevic, yeah, he's a double-double machine, but playoff Vuce has just never been great for whatever reason. Seems to get scouted on pretty easily. His efficiency drops dramatically. In his shooting, he's just, I don't know if he had some fluke years with his shooting, but his shooting with the Bulls from the three-point line in particular has just been pretty bad. Never really got it going. So that's another trade for them that just turned sour at the time. It looked okay, but, that's a couple trades where the Vooch trade you chalk up as a loss. The Lonzo Ball trade you chalk up as a loss. It was a positive, but he might not ever step on the NBA court again, which is a heartbreaker. I was a big fan of his game. I don't think he was going to be MVP or anything, but I like watching those, pass first point guards. It's kind of refreshing in today's NBA to find guys that are truly just spark plugs for your offense that know how to feed everyone in, to kind of give your guys the confidence that they're going to get the ball anytime they're open. Those are players I like to watch. That's why I like watching CP3. That's why I like watching Jokic. CP3 does not get enough credit for what he does for NBA centers. He does not. He makes those guys so much better. I'll tell you who's not going to be as good next year, DeAndre Ayton. Again, that's why I think the Suns thing is going to blow up in smoke. The Ayton's going to take a significant dip. That is already the weak spot of that Suns roster is Ayton. Well, you could argue it's Ayton in the bench, a lack of depth. But again, that ties into Ayton because he's really your only five you have to roll out there. And he's going to be worse without CP3. I don't think people understand how much CP3 fed him the ball on all those pick and rolls. Like Ayton is not scoring nearly as much without him on the team. I like Beal. I like Kevin Durant. I like Booker, but they don't have a good as pick and roll game in terms of feeding it to the 5 as well as CP3 did. I mean, he's been a pro at that. He's played with guys like Griffin, DeAndre Jordan. He's got it down, and he made Ayton a hell of a player. Definitely better than what I think we'll see this year. But moving on, we don't got a ton of time here, and the reason why I kind of want to get off the NBA because that's pretty much it. That's what's going on in the NBA offseason. A lot of trades up in the air. We don't know who's going to land where yet, other than a few cryptic tweets from James Harden removing the 76ers from his biography. Damian Lillard, not a lot of news on that one. Karl-Anthony Towns, Zach LaVine, too high a price tags. So that's where the free agency sits as of now. Where I want to go for these last 3 minutes is just kind of talk about Husker football because I don't get a ton of time to talk about it, and I just can't wait. We are already super close. I'm sure some of you guys have seen some of the ticket content. We're starting to put up those hype videos. Shout out Nico Schultz from the Nebraska track team. He does a lot of great work for the ticket. Just a great producer overall and making that stuff for us. But the season's getting closer, and I still have no idea where to put this team wins and loss wise. I think a fair number would be anywhere between 5 and 8. I think anything after 8 is a little optimistic. The schedule is easier than we've had in the recent past, absolutely. But again, first year under Matt Rule, this is where it gets tricky. So first year under Matt Rule at Baylor was 1-11. But you got to remember, he had all the allegations. He basically had to get an entire new team in a year. 1-11 makes sense, right? Those guys were not ready. That was not a full roster. They had to scramble to put that thing together based off of all the allegations before Matt Rule got there. And he did a hell of a job. 2 years after that 1-11 season, they're 11-1. So with Nebraska, it's a tougher conference, but this is the highest ranked class he's ever had at the college level. So if this is the highest ranked class he's ever had at the college level, it seems pretty apparent he knows how to coach college football. And when he has had a good roster, he went 11-1 with Baylor. But he also had a few years to kind of set up that culture there. So the question I'm asking is, how much do you credit to that quick turnaround? Was it the players or was it the foundation he set in, and how long did it take to set that foundation in? Because the next season, they definitely took a hell of a jump forward, but they took another massive jump in that third year. So are we going to see, that kind of slow start with Matt Rule, that even though we have an incredibly talented recruiting class that he's bringing in, we still gotta have play with the guys that were here now. Definitely looking to see how Reimer works in that 3-3-5. I think Reimer, the way he flies around the field, I think this could be not even sneaky. I think this could just be an expected and great year from Reimer. All things aside, injuries, hoping he stays healthy and everything's good. This is kind of a defensive setup for guys like Reimer. But again, we're talking about all these guys that Matt Rule, he came here to coach them. These aren't the players he recruited, but they're here now, and he's got to figure out a way to set them up and win with those guys out there. You feel good about the linebackers. Running back room's in discussion yet. That number 2 guy, I don't know if it's going to be Ramir Johnson. It's going to be Gabe Ervin. Or does Anthony Grant, maybe he didn't take that summer seriously enough and he falls down to the number 2 running back. I don't expect that from Anthony Grant. From what he showed us last year, I think it's his job to lose. The only way he loses it is if he just had a miserable summer and he just really didn't put any work into his craft, which would be hard to believe. With a guy like Anthony Grant, the way he plays the game, I would be willing to bet that it's going to be, for heading into fall camp, I'd imagine they put Gabe Ervin, Anthony Grant tied. But in the coach's head, I think you'd assume Grant has the edge, and it's kind of going to be his job to lose. So you got the running back room that I actually don't feel bad. Anthony Grant is a hell of a running back, and same thing with Ramir Johnson. You got to remember, Ramir Johnson did pretty damn well with the offensive line that was barely serviceable, and that's a nice way to put it. If you want to be mean about it, you just have to look at advanced analytics. Like, they just weren't good. And they'd tell you that themselves. I don't think they'd even argue with you. I think they knew that there was another level that, they just didn't get to, whether it's injuries, whether, it's just a ton of turnover, because that's another thing, why I don't want to bash on the offensive linemen too much. Think about the amount of turnover that rooms have. it's super easy to constantly get on our offensive line. But like, come on, the turnover for those guys has been a lot. You are constantly learning new blocking schemes. You know, every coach is a little different on how they want to do that blocking scheme. They're going to man up or zone block. It all just depends. And when you're constantly switching it around, like, yeah, you're not going to be solid. Your fundamentals are going to be all over the place because you've had 3 rotations of offensive line coaches. So again, I don't want to beat up on those guys too much. It was bad. It was a bad season, but I'm not going to put it all on them. You know, that's what happens when you have a university and constant turnover is a lack of consistency. You like a lot of turnover, you're going to have a lot of inconsistency. So let's hope with Matt Rule, all things kind of finally start to clean up. I'm just super excited. I know it's the Hoops IQ check, but when Husker football is around the corner, it's hard to blame you, right? But nonetheless, appreciate you guys joining in on the show. You can go to ticketfm.com or YouTube 93.7 The Ticket, catch all the past streams, and ticketfm.com for all the podcasts. Appreciate you guys listening on the Hoops IQ check. I'm Harrison Arens. I'll catch you next week, Thursday from 9 to 10 p.m. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday night.
If you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis, call 988 for free, confidential, and compassionate support. On July 16th, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is transitioning to 988. There is hope. For 24/7 support, call, text, or chat 988.
Sponsored by Nebraska DHHS, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
They are our pets, our family, and they make life better. When we face unexpected challenges, so do our pets. That's why we're on a mission to support people and their pets.